Imagine waking up one day to the silent, chilling realization that your life is not a line moving forward, but a circle, endlessly tracing the same worn groove. You check your phone, a portal to the entire world's knowledge and connection, and feel a familiar, hollow ache. You scroll through the curated triumphs of others, the endless news cycles of outrage and spectacle, the dizzying array of options for self-improvement, new apps to optimize your sleep, new podcasts to optimize your mindset, new courses to optimize your career. You are, by any historical measure, one of the most privileged humans to have ever existed. You have access to comforts, information, and possibilities that a medieval king could not have even fantasized about. And yet, a quiet, persistent question whispers beneath the hum of your refrigerator and the glow of your screen. Is this it? You feel it, don't you? That subtle existential friction. The paradox of our age is not one of scarcity, but of overwhelming, suffocating abundance. We are drowning in options, yet thirsting for meaning. We are connected to billions, yet are intimately acquainted with a profound loneliness that our ancestors, living in tight-knit, vulnerable communities, might never have comprehended. We are told we are evolving, accelerating, progressing at a breakneck speed towards a brighter, shinier future. Our tools evolve, our gadgets miniaturize, our networks expand. But what about us? What about the human soul, with its ancient, unchanging needs for purpose, for connection, for a sense of place in a cosmos that feels increasingly vast and indifferent? We have conquered distance but have forgotten how to arrive. We have conquered disease but have industrialized anxiety. We have conquered ignorance but have become lost in a labyrinth of information without wisdom. We build taller towers, but do we build better character? We extend our lifespans, but do we deepen our lives? We can edit our genes, but can we edit the bitterness from our hearts? We speak of innovation and disruption as the highest virtues, but what is being innovated and what is being disrupted? Often it seems it is our own peace, our attention, our very capacity for deep, uninterrupted thought that is the casualty of this relentless forward charge. We are like a rider on a galloping horse, convinced we are heading towards a glorious destination, but never stopping to ask if the horse is tame, if the path is true, or if we are even holding the reins. The pace is so frantic that the landscape blurs into a smear of color and noise. We mistake this velocity for progress. We mistake this blur for a destination. So let us ask the dangerous question, the one that undermines the foundational narrative of our modern world. What if our entire conception of progress is a magnificent collective illusion? What if, for all our technological wizardry, we are fundamentally the same creatures who huddled around fires, telling stories to keep the darkness at bay? Only now we do it with the cold electric light of a screen illuminating our faces. What if the core human dilemmas, the struggle with mortality, the search for love, the confrontation with suffering, the hunger for the sacred, have not been solved by our science, but merely repackaged, digitized, and left to fester in the silent, private spaces of our minds? This is not an argument against science, medicine, or comfort. It is a deeper, more unsettling inquiry into the nature of evolution itself. Biological evolution is blind and slow, concerned only with survival and reproduction. Cultural and technological evolution, however, is explosive and self-directed. But towards what end? Does it have a goal beyond its own acceleration? Are we, the creators of this terrifyingly powerful system, still in control of it? Or have we become components within it, serving the machine's insatiable hunger for more data, more growth, more efficiency, while our inner worlds stagnate or even regress? The unease you feel is the friction between the story you've been sold, the myth of perpetual linear progress, and the truth your soul intuits. It is the quiet horror of realizing you are running faster and faster on a path that might be leading in a circle, or worse, to a cliff. This feeling is the starting point. It is the first faint crack in the grand illusion. It is the necessary doubt that precedes any genuine awakening. This is not a call to nostalgia for some idealized, simpler past. It is a call to a radical honesty about our present. To look at the world we have built, at the lives we are living within it, and to ask with unwavering courage, beyond the faster processors and the higher resolutions, what has truly progressed? And what has been left behind, abandoned in our frantic rush towards a future that forever recedes over the horizon? The answer to this question will not be found in a new app or a new philosophy. It begins by staring into the quiet void of your own unease and refusing to look away. This unease is not a personal failing. It is not a sign that you are not optimized enough, not grateful enough, not using the right productivity system. It is the inevitable symptom of a deep, structural schism in the modern soul. To understand it, we must stop looking at the shiny objects on the surface and dive into the murky depths of psychology and philosophy, where the true mechanics of this illusion are hidden. The core of the problem is a fundamental misdirection. We have outsourced our evolution. We have allowed external technological advancement to masquerade as internal, human evolution. We conflate the evolution of our tools with the evolution of our being. A smartphone is more evolved than a stone tool, but is the consciousness using it more evolved than that of the early human who felt a sacred awe at the first spark of fire? We are like gardeners who, enthralled by the development of ever more sophisticated watering cans, hoses, and sprinkler systems, completely forget to tend to the soil, which grows increasingly barren and depleted. This misdirection is not an accident. It is the product of powerful psychological and societal forces. The great psychoanalyst Carl Jung warned of this precise danger. He saw that the modern individual, having largely abandoned ancient myths and religious frameworks, was left with a gaping void in the psyche, a hunger for meaning. Man cannot stand a meaningless life, he wrote. This void, this existential hunger, creates a profound anxiety. And what does the modern world offer to fill it? Not meaning, but distraction. Not purpose, but consumption. We are offered 1,000 ways to escape the question of meaning, rather than one way to answer it. We are encouraged to scroll, to shop, to binge, to optimize, to do anything but sit quietly with the terrifying and magnificent question of what our life is for. This is where the philosophy of the 20th century becomes a devastating prophecy. Aldous Huxley in Brave New World did not fear a world where we were tortured by what we hate, but a world where we are enslaved by what we love. A world of endless, trivial pleasure, where discomfort is medicined away, critical thought is drowned in a sea of entertainment, and the very concept of truth is rendered irrelevant by a barrage of feel-good irrelevance. A really efficient, totalitarian state, Huxley said, would be one in which the all-powerful executive of political bosses and their army of managers control a population of slaves who do not have to be coerced because they love their servitude. Is this not the seductive trap of our infinite scroll? We are not in chains. We are in a custom-built, algorithmically generated comfort zone, and we are terrified to leave it. This system is perpetuated by a perversion of a very human desire, the will to power. Nietzsche saw this not as a crude desire for domination, but as the fundamental drive in all life to expand, to grow, to overcome itself. It is the energy behind all great art, all exploration, all self-mastery. But in a world devoid of tangible frontiers and clear spiritual paths, where is this energy supposed to go? It is channeled into the virtual, the material, the quantifiable. We are taught to overcome ourselves not through philosophy or virtue, but by grinding through inbox zero, by chasing viral validation, by amassing followers, by upgrading our car, our home, our body. Our will to power is hijacked and redirected into a consumerist loop, creating a society of what Nietzsche would call the last men, who blink and say, "What is love? What is creation? What is longing? What is a star?" Thus they blink and live their little lives. This creates a terrifying feedback loop. The more we seek to fill our inner void with external validation and material gain, the emptier we feel, because these things are, by their nature, incapable of providing meaning. Viktor Frankl, writing from the unimaginable horror of the Nazi concentration camps, discovered that the one thing that could not be taken from a person was their attitude towards an unavoidable suffering. In other words, the power to choose their response, to to find meaning in spite of their circumstances. He called this tragic optimism. Our modern dilemma is the inverse. We live in a world of unprecedented optionality and comfort, yet we have surrendered this very power. We outsource our choices to algorithms that tell us what to watch, what to buy, and who to date. We avoid unavoidable suffering at all costs, medicating away sadness, boredom, and anxiety, the very states that often serve as catalysts for deep introspection and growth. We have, in the pursuit of comfort, willingly relinquished the tools for building a meaningful self. The hidden problem, then, is a grand-scale spiritual and psychological catfishing scheme. We are promised that the next innovation, the next purchase, the next lifestyle hack will finally be the thing that makes us whole. But it cannot, because wholeness is an internal condition, not an external acquisition. The system depends on you forever feeling this lack, forever seeking the next fix. It is not designed for you to arrive, because a person who is truly content, truly at peace and secure in their meaning, is a very poor consumer. They are a dead end for the engine of perpetual growth. We are not evolving inwardly because we have been tricked into believing the work is done for us. We wait for a software update to fix our lives when the real work is, and has always been, the arduous, unglamorous, and deeply personal task of building character, confronting our shadows, and choosing our values. We have been looking for progress in the wrong direction, and with every outward step we neglect the vast, uncharted, and essential universe within. This hijacking of our inner potential is not a passive, philosophical error. It is an active, neurological reality with devastating, unseen consequences that ripple through our minds, our relationships, and the very fabric of our society. The grand illusion leaves a tangible residue on our lives, a series of symptoms we often treat in isolation without diagnosing the core disease. The first and most profound consequence is the atrophy of attention. The human brain is not a static processor. It is a plastic, adaptive organ that evolves based on what we demand of it. We have built a digital environment that is a perpetual high-speed stimulus machine. Notifications, infinite scroll, hyperlinks, and rapid-cut videos are not merely distractions. They are a relentless training regimen for your cognition. They are teaching your brain to crave novelty and to reject depth. They reward skimming and punish immersion. The neural pathways required for sustained, focused concentration, the kind necessary to read a complex novel, to follow a nuanced argument, to sit with a difficult emotion, or to simply be bored and allow the mind to wander and create, are weakening from disuse. We are, as neuroscientist Michael Merzenich might argue, literally sculpting a brain that is incompatible with the deep reflective thought that is the bedrock of wisdom and self-awareness. We are trading the capacity for understanding for the capacity to process information. This is not evolution. It is a neurological devolution, a quiet rewiring of our most fundamental tool for engaging with reality. This fractured attention creates a second-order consequence, the erosion of empathy. True empathy is not a quick swipe of compassion. It is a demanding cognitive and emotional act. It requires the patience to listen to another's story without interruption, the focus to read subtle facial cues and tones of voice, and the mental stamina to hold space for another's suffering without rushing to a solution or turning away to a more comfortable stimulus. When our attention is shredded, our empathy suffers. We begin to relate to others as we relate to our feeds, skimming the highlights, reacting quickly, and moving on when we are no longer entertained or validated. Relationships become another domain to be optimized for maximum return on emotional investment rather than sacred spaces for messy, unpredictable, and profound human connection. We are connected to everyone and yet intimate with no one, including ourselves. This leads to the third and perhaps most dangerous consequence, the commodification of the self. In a world where external validation is the primary metric of success, your identity itself becomes a product to be branded, marketed, and sold. Your Instagram profile is your logo. Your thoughts are reduced to content. Your life milestones become engagement opportunities. You are encouraged to curate your authenticity, to perform your vulnerability, to package your humanity for consumption. This creates a psychological schism described by sociologist Irving Goffman as the difference between the front stage and backstage self. The front stage is the highly polished, performative identity we present to the world online. The backstage is the raw, unedited, often insecure and confused reality of our inner experience. The digital age has blown up the walls of the backstage. There is no longer any sanctuary for the unperformed self. The constant pressure to maintain and optimize our personal brand is a relentless source of anxiety, for we know deep down that the product we are selling is a fiction. We feel like imposters in our own lives, terrified that one day we will be unmasked and revealed as the flawed, uncertain humans we truly are. On a societal scale, these individual fractures coalesce into a cultural psychosis. Our fractured attention makes us susceptible to misinformation because we lack the focus to follow a complex argument to its conclusion. Our eroded empathy fuels the fires of polarization because we cannot muster the patience to understand the human being behind a contrary opinion. Our commodified selves create a culture of perpetual outrage and virtue signaling because taking a strong performative stand on a trending issue is a more effective branding strategy than engaging in quiet, humble, and nuanced dialogue. We find ourselves in a bizarre collective delusion. We believe we are more informed than ever, yet we lack wisdom. We believe we are more connected than ever, yet we are drowning in loneliness. We believe we have more choices than ever, yet we feel utterly powerless. This is the ultimate irony of the illusion of progress. The very systems we built to liberate us, to give us information, connection, and choice, have become the architecture of a new, more subtle and insidious form of captivity. We are not in a dystopia of obvious oppression. We are in a dystopia of distraction, where the chains are made of streamable content, personalized ads, and the constant nagging feeling that you should be doing something more, something else, something better with your life, as defined by a marketplace that profits from your perpetual dissatisfaction. The consequence is a life lived on the surface, a life of reaction instead of creation, a life of managing impressions instead of building character. We are so busy documenting the movie of our lives that we forget to star in it. We have gained the whole world of technological marvels and risk losing the very soul that gives that world its meaning. And this loss is not happening in a dramatic collapse. It is happening in 1,000 tiny surrenders every day. Every time you reach for your phone to escape a moment of silence, every time you choose a hot take over a deep truth, every time you measure your worth in likes instead of in love. The diagnosis is grim, the cage is real. But here is the terrifying and liberating secret. The door is not locked. It never was. The rebellion does not require you to smash your devices, retreat to a cabin in the woods, or overthrow the government. Those are simply other forms of escape, other performances. The true rebellion is far more subtle, far more difficult, and infinitely more profound. It is an internal coup d'etat. It is the reclamation of your own attention, your own cognition, and your own sovereign self from the forces that have colonized them. The first and most radical act of war is to embrace boredom. In the economy of attention, boredom is the anti-commodity. It is a state of zero market value. It is also, as existential philosophers have long hinted, the birthplace of authentic being. When you remove external stimulation, you are forced to confront the internal one. The anxiety, the restlessness, the nagging thoughts, they rise to the surface. This is not a sign you are failing. It is a sign you are succeeding. You are detoxifying. In that void, that fertile emptiness, something miraculous can happen. You begin to hear your own voice again. You remember what you are genuinely curious about, what you truly enjoy, not what you have been trained to enjoy. Start small. Sit in a chair for 5 minutes with no input. Wait in a line without pulling out your phone. Drive in silence. This is not doing nothing. This is the essential work of reacquainting yourself with the raw material of your own consciousness. You are recalibrating your internal compass, which has been scrambled by 1,000 magnetic signals. The second front in this rebellion is to redefine progress entirely. We must violently reject the external, quantitative metric of a life well lived. More money, more followers, more promotions, and replace it with an internal, qualitative one. This is a deeply personal and philosophical undertaking. Ask yourself, what does it feel like to be me today? Am I more patient than I was yesterday? Did I understand a complex idea more deeply? Was I more present in a conversation with someone I love? Did I create something for the sheer joy of it with no thought of its market value? Did I confront a fear? This is the true evolution. This is the evolution of character. The Stoics called this the pursuit of arete, excellence of character. Viktor Frankl called it finding meaning in any circumstance. It is the slow, patient, unglamorous work of carving a soul. Your progress is not measured in your bank statement or your social metrics, but in the quiet dignity you feel when you look in the mirror, in the depth of your relationships, and in your capacity to meet suffering with grace and joy with gratitude. The third tactic is to curate your constraints. Freedom is not the absence of limits. It is found within the right limits. The digital world is designed to be limitless, and that is precisely its danger. You must become the architect of your own limits. This is not deprivation. It is liberation. It is the creation of sacred spaces where the market logic of more, better, faster cannot enter. Time constraints. Designate hours of the day or entire days of the week as tech-free. Let them be for deep work, for reading physical books, for cooking, for walking, for being with people. Defend these hours not as a break from productivity, but as its most important source. Cognitive constraints. Choose depth over breadth. Deliberately engage with ideas that are difficult and require sustained effort. Read a book that challenges you all the way through. Listen to a long-form podcast or lecture on a single topic. Resist the urge to multitask, which is merely the act of doing multiple things poorly simultaneously. Social constraints. Intentionally seek out and nurture relationships that are not transactional. Find people with whom you can be your backstage self without performance or pretense. Have conversations that are not about networking, optimizing, or complaining, but about exploring ideas, sharing fears, and bearing witness to each other's humanity. This rebellion finds its generals in the most unexpected places. Look to the monks who see attachment as the source of suffering, and understand that our attachment to our digital identities is a new form of craving. Look to the artists who work for years on a project seen by few, finding their reward in the integrity of the work itself, not in its reception. Look to the craftsman who finds meditation in the repetition of a perfect stitch or a clean joint. They are not falling behind. They are ahead of the curve. They understand that true power is not the ability to control the external world, but the ability to control your inner world, your attention, and your responses. Breaking free is not a one-time event. It is a daily practice. It is saying no to the 10th notification. It is choosing a book over a binge. It is staying with the discomfort of a quiet moment instead of reaching for the digital pacifier. Each of these choices is a vote for a different kind of reality, a vote for depth over distraction, for meaning over metrics, for the human spirit over the algorithm. You are not opting out of progress. You are opting into a different, older, and more essential evolution. You are not moving backwards, you are moving inwards. And in that inward journey, you will find the only progress that has ever truly mattered. The ultimate truth, the final, most powerful realization. After all this, the diagnosis of the trap, the understanding of its mechanisms, and the blueprint for rebellion, we arrive at the final silent core of it all. The ultimate truth is not a secret to be uncovered, but a paradox to be embodied. It is this: there is no destination. The grand illusion of progress was not just the promise of a better future. It was the promise that the future is where meaning resides. That happiness, fulfillment, and evolution are points on a horizon we are perpetually marching towards. We are conditioned to live in a state of perpetual preparation, forever optimizing ourselves for a life that is always about to begin. Once I get this promotion, then I'll be secure. Once I find the right partner, then I'll be whole. Once I buy that house, then I'll have arrived. This is the deepest trick of the machine, to convince you that your life is a project to be completed rather than a moment to be lived. The most powerful realization is that true evolution is not linear. It is not a climb up a mountain whose peak we must someday reach. It is the deepening of a well. Your progress is not measured in altitude, but in depth. It is measured by your capacity to be fully present to the raw, unvarnished reality of your existence. The joy and the sorrow, the love and the loss, the creativity and the boredom, without needing to filter it, perform it, or escape from it, into the promise of a better tomorrow. This is the wisdom echoed by the mystics and the philosophers across ages. The Buddha's enlightenment was not an arrival at a new place, but a profound awakening to the nature of the place he had always been. He saw that suffering is born from craving for things to be different, for the next thing, for the future to resolve the present. The Stoics preached the doctrine of amor fati, the love of one's fate. Not a passive resignation, but a fierce, joyful embrace of the present moment, in all its perfect imperfection, as the only place where life actually happens. Meister Eckhart, the medieval Christian mystic, wrote, "God is not found in the soul by adding anything but by a process of subtraction. The same is true of the self. You find it not by adding more achievements, more possessions, more followers, but by subtracting the noise that obscures it. Your life, right now, in this breath, is not a stepping stone. It is the fundamental thing. The meeting you are rushing to, the inbox you are clearing, the future you are planning for. These are all ghosts. The only tangible reality is the feeling of your breath in your lungs, the weight of your body in the chair, the quality of the light through the window. The meaning is not waiting for you at the end of the struggle. It is woven into the fabric of the struggle itself. The love is not in the grand gesture planned for tomorrow, but in the microsecond of eye contact you make with a stranger today. The evolution is not in the next software update, but in your willingness to sit with a difficult emotion until it reveals its lesson. This is the paradigm shift that redefines everything. When you truly internalize this, all your previous struggles suddenly make sense in hindsight. The anxiety was a symptom of living in a future that does not exist. The loneliness was a symptom of being disconnected from the present moment, the only place where genuine connection can occur. The feeling of emptiness was not a lack of things to fill you up, but a sign that you had neglected the inner wellspring of your own being. So, what do? You do not renounce the world. You do not break your phone. You simply change your relationship to it. You see technology as a tool, not a destination. You see ambition as a game to be played, not a purpose to be fulfilled. You engage with the world from a place of inner abundance, not inner lack. You become like a deep-rooted tree in the middle of a hurricane. The winds of trends, algorithms, and societal pressures may whip your branches, but at your core, you are unmoved, because your sustenance does not come from the storm. It comes from the deep, silent, ancient ground of your own present awareness. The journey ends where it began, right here. But now you see it with new eyes. The circle was not a trap, it was a mandala, a perfect whole pattern that contains the entire universe. You were never lost. You were just looking for yourself in the wrong direction, out there in the future, in the past, in the opinions of others. The entire time, you were the stillness at the center. The final question is not, how do I evolve? But, how deeply am I willing to inhabit my own existence? How much of this fleeting, miraculous moment are you willing to actually live? Not record, not post, not optimize, but live. The rebellion is over. The war is won not by fighting, but by stopping. By settling into the breathtaking, terrifying, and magnificent truth that this is it. This life, this moment, this breath, and it is more than enough.